From my experience, I've taken psilocybin and LSD, smoked salvia, MDMA.
Yeah.
DMT is not like that.
Interesting.
It's a different, it's like a reality check.
Right.
It's very clean. I feel very real. It feels very real. The other stuff is like warping visions of reality, all the twisting chemicals and stuff. DMT is the most normal, like, oh, this is what we are at that frequency. Now here's the body, the tool, the probe that we're using. That thing, it's not like an additive. It's almost like it removes these additives of meat and chemical so that you can see purely. It's
like you think those things are here all the time.
Yeah,
taking the DMT eroded that curtain.
Lifts the veil.
Right.
There's the word apocalypse means apo is to remove,
right,
and calypse is the veil.
Right.
The removal of the veil to the true seeing.
See, and now I hear that, I'm like, I don't know if the apocalypse is something I want to be partaking in, you know? Even if it's like a personal kind of ego death of sorts into another place. It seems like, you know, in the past 2 years, I've been pretty heavy with reading the Bible, and so now I'm like, you know, I see a lot of things because I'm reading that a lot. And so when I hear that description on this side of things now, I hear it as almost like this is an eating the fruit type situation that I should not be partaking in.
Oh, maybe, because after I did it, I was like, I don't even need to be alive anymore. And
Right.
my friend Stephanie was like, you need to be alive. You're Ian Crossland. You do a political show on YouTube.
We need you here.
Because I was like, I think I'm done. I think
Right.
I accomplished everything. I can go back now. And she was like, no, you need to be here.
That I don't like. Even though it seems like, would you say it was an ego death of sorts?
Yeah. But not like where
Because it's good to get rid of the ego, for sure. I don't know if I want to go through those lengths to get there.
I don't know. Death isn't the right word. It was like an ego on hold. Ego was put on hold.
Right. That's good. That's good.
But it came back. But when it came back, it was like, I don't need it anymore.
Right.
Like
You've
I really
experienced life without it.
Yeah. It was like life. It was like it was like they were like sentient beings. They weren't living.
Right.
They weren't living in the sense that they were animal life, plant life. They weren't living. They were
Right.
just sentient consciousness. And I was engaged with the sentience without the life, the living. Obviously, I was still living, and I didn't blast through. Like a lot of people, they say take a huge hit and hold it as long as you can,
Right.
and then you burst into this reality for 15 minutes. You're in this
Right.
like perceptual state. But I only couldn't get the element on the thing hot enough, and I was vaping it. I wasn't smoking it. I was vaping it, so I was heating up glass, and it was warming up and heating up the crystals, which were then giving me vapor,
Right.
which is apparently a lot cleaner than if you burn the crystals themselves and breathe in the smoke.
Yeah.
Couldn't get the glass hot enough, so I was just like peering through the veil as opposed to blasting through. I was just like lifting it up and looking in, and they were like, come in, and I was like, they're in, and I didn't have I could feel like, that thing, that like that visor of three-dimensional reality is like back, and I'm like, okay, but I couldn't get in. I could kind of like relaxing wasn't enough to get into it. It wasn't enough on that state. That's my second experience with it, and both times I didn't blast through. I just peered through.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Psilocybin, I did a bunch, and every time it was a negative experience in the first like 30 minutes. I think Hunter Thompson used to call it the fear, when you take something and you know there's no going back, and the fear would take over. And each time I would be different people, different groups of people. This is like my early 20s, late teens. Every time after the fear consumed me, I would pass out. I'd get like cold sweats and then wake up. And this is weird because I'm on a show now called Inverted World Live. And I didn't even think of this when we came up with the title. But when I came to, everything would be upside down. My vision was completely inverted.
Oh, that's how your vision is normally is upside down, and then your brain flips it.
I didn't like it. And my friends, and this is from different groups of people, all said I sounded like I spoke upside down. Like I felt not right. I was like, I'm never, obviously I kept doing it. And my last time I did a very small amount, and it was a nice time, but I was like, that's it. I'm done. I don't need to do this anymore. And I should say, unlike eating the fruit in the Bible, they became fearful of death because it gave death, right? What you're saying is you did not fear death. Did you fear death before?
No longer. I was like, oh, well, if death is that, we're good.
Right.
That's cool. That's like a good place to be. That's like a very calm normal like reality.
And then my fear is, and this is because I'm like a crazy person, is that just false reality that we're being invited into? That's not the nice place, right? Like I have a friend, older guy, who was into astral projecting, and he would just bounce and be in there, and had a really good friend. He would say he sounded kind of like the entities you're talking about, because he couldn't really describe them physically, although they were an entity, right? And they could talk. And he'd go there all the time and talk to this person. And then some other entity came in after a while, it was after multiple trips there, and said, "You're talking to the devil." And then he was just overcome with fear, and then he never went back.
Oh.
And he was afraid he was going to be stuck there.
That other guy might have been lying.
Totally.
They from my experience, and I've only gone in twice. I've only peered through twice. The first time there were no entities available, but I saw my buddy across the room who was like also, and I only smoked a little, and I could see gravity sucking him down to the planet. I could just see like the effects of. I was like, oh, I got an objective view of like the third dimension. I was like, wow, gravity is powerful. Like our bodies are this whole like this thing. Mm-hmm. We're desensitized to seeing it, but if we could go out into space, our faces would be up.
Right.
Everything would be like lifted, and I could see like gravity just. But this is the second time was with the entities, and I realized talking with other friends that have done it, like if you're afraid when you do it, they're going to be terrifying. They're going to look like demons. They're going to act like demons because that's who you are. You're just like if you're angry and you're thinking about something, you're going to have angry thoughts about the thing. Whereas if you're in a good mood and you're thinking about something, you're going to have good thoughts about the thing. It's the same with visualizing these spirits or these people or personas. I guess they're personalities, so I call them people. But
right.
So it's a lot about their reflections of you. You're seeing like through your own emotional lens. And I knew that right when I did it. I had the choice. I'm like, okay, I can be afraid and see the demonic, or I can be relaxed and calm and see the love. So I chose the love, and they were like very gracious and thankful and happy for me to be there. They were like in awe, staring at me like, he's here, he can see us. The one guy was like, oh my God, he can see us. And they were like, it was like they were scientists on a ship, and I teleported into their teleporter, and they were like, he can see us now. Like, oh my God. Like they were like,
you're like a ghost to them, or an alien, or
I don't know if they could always see me, and they were just watching me like a TV, and I was just a character on a TV. It's like if you're watching a TV show and they looked at you and was like, Shane, and you'd be like, what the fucking hell? That's I think what they were experiencing.
That's wild. But they were being gracious.
Nice. Yeah, the girl was like full on, I've done this a million times, come here. Like, I don't know if she had, or if she was just like, I've been training my whole life for this moment. Don't let him know that I'm freaked out. She was doing a good job at like just inviting me in. And the guy was more analytical on the left, like watching, like observing, like, holy shit, he can see us.
To segue now into UFOs, I wonder if people's abduction experiences could somehow be like this.
Totally, dude.
Right?
Because most people always talk about being on drugs too.
I mean, a lot of them could be maybe they weren't even on drugs, or maybe something else opened up something in their brain. Because like you were saying, DMT is in us.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they're entering, because it sounds like you were being studied to some degree, right? And that's what a lot of abduction stories sound like we're just specimens.
Wow.
Interesting.
Mind blown.
They were very interested in me.
Interesting. You've been abducted.
Wow. And if people go there against their will, like I was willingly ready to go experience whatever was happening. So it didn't feel like an abduction. It was like I joined you. But for someone that is taken there or just has the experience against like without intention, that would be, I mean, maybe not terrifying, but just like it would feel like an abduction. Like I was taken.
Go back to what you're saying about the emotions you're projecting onto the situation. Because you went in with a good mind and you were positive. Other people might not even know why they're there and they're freaking out, you know?
Right.
And a lot of people, maybe, if this is just one way of doing it for abductions, it's like you don't have to leave, really. Because I've interviewed a lot of people who they have very vivid memories of being carried out of their bedroom window, and they're flying over. It doesn't mean they really left. And perhaps they also did encounter an entity, right? Maybe it all happened right there. Did you notice like a time
dilation?
Like did you were you gone?
Well, what happened was I vaped the stuff and I saw these ribbons. This is how it all started and came and appeared. It was like alphanumeric patterns, alphanumeric shapes, like an L on its side and like an A, sideways A, and like all these tiny little letters and numbers of different shapes, and like not all alpha English or anything. and they're like strands of them, and the strands started to move like ribbons, and then they took on a 3-dimensional, and I was like, whoo, I was in this like stereoscopic 3D realm of like void where all these like patterns were spinning around, and then they took on the outline of the woman's arm, and she was waving me towards her, and then I was like, oh, and the shimmering, the color. First they took on color, like shimmering, and then they became the outline of her arm and her entire body. It was like these flowing patterns. And then, but it didn't feel like I went somewhere, but it felt like a new perception of a space, a new perceptual space opened up, or like I saw it in a new way. I saw, and what I was laying down, and when I would lay on the back of my head, it would be 360, except I couldn't see anything behind me.
Oh,
and
wow.
when I would, because I was still partially conscious, when I would lay on the left side of my head, it would be 3D, except the left part of the vision was vacant. There was nothing there. So it was like 270 degrees when and when I would go on my right, it would be 270 degrees, but I wouldn't see anything on the right. So I was like, in low gravity, without all that pressure and compression, you'd have a much more open experience.
Right. Were you into patterns and stuff, you know, before that?
Yeah, geometric patterns. I kind of see music like that.
I wonder if that also tweaks your perception of the experience, you know, because me and the issues I was facing, even though I didn't do DMT, I was kind of projecting all my own weird stuff into wherever I was going. So it was like my only way to interpret those surroundings was with the things I left behind in the world, right? And if you went in with your perception of like you're interested in patterns and stuff like that, maybe that helped you understand where you were.
I bet so. That's probably the language they thought I knew.
Right.
They're like, let's feed him,
Hit him with some
whatever he understands.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay, so UFOs are in the news a lot. This past week, did you see that there was a hearing?
No.
So Congress has had another hearing. Do you believe in aliens? Where are you with aliens?
Well, I think we're talking about them right now. These it's high frequency, but then there might be like physical meat aliens. I just don't think those have ever been to Earth that I can tell. I've never seen evidence of it.
It's a good name for a band, by the way. Physical meat alien.
Physical meat alien.
That's a sick name for a band, dude. Yeah, we're gonna start that now. So what do you make of like something having been so taboo for so long, like talking about aliens, and now it seems to be so untaboo that they're having these open congressional hearings and no one seems to really care?
I think it was a red herring, a convenient boogeyman for people that are working on drone programs and like high tech military ops and stuff. That they've been like, all right, let's create an idea and then make it seem so taboo that it must be real to the people because they love a good conspiracy. And then because they seem to have crash landed a drone at Roswell, and they were like, shit, tell them it was a hot air balloon. Shit, cover it up. No, it wasn't anything. And then they're like, oh, the people think now it's aliens.
Right.
Let's keep them thinking that so that we can keep working on our drone programs and our fusion packs or whatever the hell power tech they're working on. And maybe they had chimeras on board. Maybe they just put stuffed animals on board and told Bob, what's his name, Lazar, that it was like a real living creature, and they put like a little. Yeah. Maybe they're working on chimeras and they put them both. They're like, I mean, when you have high tech clearance, you might have access to the chimeric, gene splicing programs and the drone programs, and they're like, let's just really mess this guy up.
They're 100% making chimeras.
Yeah,
we know that. That's like in the news for the past
especially
few years.
in China, it's documented. They've been doing it.
Especially in China, there was this isn't a chimera so much, but in recent news this is my favorite one. The guy who's going to federal prison for creating the mutant sheep.
No, I didn't hear about that. What happened?
I guess so. Everyone was like, "How could you get in trouble for doing this?" I guess what happened was he was importing illegal animals to then splice up and turn into this for hunting, but they're like giant sheep or giant rams.
Really?
And he's in prison, and the articles all say the rams have been confiscated and then put in a federal facility. Like, what are they doing with them?
Why wouldn't they just kill them? They're probably doing
because they're going to use them.
Yeah, they're going to continue.
They're going to put them in a flying saucer. There's some giant sheep in a flying saucer.
It was similar to Operation Paperclip when the Nazis got smashed up. They just took all the Nazi work and they just continued researching it because it was good research.
That's how we got NASA. We hired the guy who made the V2 rocket.
And I say good research. It was effective research. It was functional research, even though it was done on humans in bathtubs with like whatever the hell. Yeah,
horrible stuff. And I honestly, they were really bad. But I always say the Unit 731 stuff was even worse.
The Japanese research.
Yeah. That was just
I only know
abomination.
This scratched the surface.
They were like cutting people open, vivisection while they were alive, and studying them. They were freezing people's hands and shattering them while they were alive. They were putting people in pressure tanks and seeing how much they could give it till their eyes popped out. And this was Japanese against Chinese prisoners of war. And so like Paperclip to a degree, I don't think we really hired them as far as I know, but we went in there after the war was over and said, we're interested in this research. We're going to give you all immunity, and we just want all this research. And then not soon after, we started doing a lot of weird experiments on the American public.
So this guy imported like sheep and ram that were illegal, and then the government or whoever it was came in and confiscated the research?
I guess it was either parts
like, "This
of
is
the
good
animals
chimera
or
research."
them. But yeah, so it's not really chimeras. Like he wasn't, I don't think he was making Frankenstein
Oh, he wasn't
creatures.
gene splicing?
I don't think so. It's like a 70-year-old dude. I don't really know. I talked to him briefly. So I tried getting him on the show. Right when the news broke, I'm like, I got to find this guy. I got him on Facebook, of all places. And he was like, I would, but my lawyer says I can't do any shows. I'm like, damn, dude.
And then they put him away?
Giant sheep. Yeah, he's going to prison for a little bit.
Guess they should have done the show.
But
Or maybe just a little bit.
But chimeras are real, for sure.
Yeah.
Chimeras
I think
were-
there's articles I've read about it anyway. I've never seen one that I know of to like prove it, but even then I'd be like, what am I looking at? But like sheep, pig hybrids, you know.
And I agree. I think a lot of this stuff, I think these weird things exist that we just can't explain. And even though I'm very suspicious of the hearings, and I'm very suspicious of the government telling anything, like I should be like, oh wow, thank you for telling me the truth all of a sudden after lying to me my whole life. And like, now I believe you. I'm not there. And they're saying things like, we are not alone. They're saying things like, we've got biologic specimens from crashes, and that we are reverse engineering these technologies.
Well, maybe they're recovering like Russian drones, and the Russians have been working on chimeras, and they're like, what is this creature? But like, I don't think they'd be so idiotic that they would assume it was off-world.
Right.
So I think they're lying.